here to review the Seahawks Week 1 victory over the Denver Broncos, 26-20. They defeated the evil Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. It was an interesting game. Lots to talk about. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Great to have you back here. I'm Seahawk boy Mike Barra with chiming in with some interesting stuff about the Seattle Seahawks. It was a great game today. Well, it wasn't a great game, but it was an entertaining game. It was a victory. You can't really complain about that. And I think the main thing that you have to be pleased about, at least from my perspective, the main thing I have to be pleased about is that they got through it. And, you know, this is a new transition, new coach, new coaching staff. We didn't know how they were going to approach things. We had our ideas. A lot of us bought into a lot of the hype that had come up, a lot of the hype that came up in in the preseason. I mean, I looked at the preseason game 3. I looked at the way the offense played, and I'm like, wow, Gino's really firing the ball all over the place. I got fired up enough, and with the 49ers struggling, I was thinking, hey, you know, maybe they'll actually win the division. So I decided, look, you know, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl. I know they're not going to be good enough for that, but they could maybe sneak in and win the division. So I threw $100 down on Suncoast Casino. It's hanging right over there. Sorry about that. It's hanging right over there on my window or on my wall over here. And so, you know, I put my money where my mouth is. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't have my microphone up. So they managed to squeeze through the game. There was a lot of interesting stuff. The offensive line play was terrible. The interior offensive line, which John Schneider, the Seahawks general manager, has said, hey, I don't believe in spending big money on the interior offensive line. Well, today it showed. They got pushed around. There was penetration at the middle. Geno Smith was under a lot of pressure. Because he's Geno, he didn't handle it very well. And these are the kinds of things that happen. Let's pop up, see if we can get some highlights running in the background a little bit while I'm talking about this stuff. The Seahawks gave up 2 safeties. That's atrocious. The second one, you know, again, there were growing pains. I don't know what Ryan Grubb was doing in some situations. They got pinned down at the 1 yard line, or actually inside the 1 yard line. You're in your own end zone. And Grubb sets up in a shotgun formation with a single back, no blocking fullback, and does a shotgun snap to Geno, who then hands it off. Well, of course they got stuff for a safety, and they've been being dominated. They'd already given up one other safety. They'd already been being dominated on the inside by the Broncos defensive line, and that just didn't make any sense. Now, does that mean that Ryan Grubb is a bad offensive coordinator, or that, you know, they don't really know what they're doing? No, because they did make some serious adjustments in the second half. They came out, they ran the ball almost exclusively in the second half. That's how the Seahawks are going to win. Take the ball out of Geno Smith's hands, put it in the hands of Ken Walker and a little bit of Zach Charbonnet. They had a big breakdown. Geno's touchdown pass to Charbonnet, swinging out of the backfield. Nobody covered him. Total breakdown, touchdown pass for the Seahawks. But, you know, overall, it was nice to see a team that could tackle on defense. And that's been the biggest problem the last 4 or 5 years. Well, one of the biggest problems with the Pete Carroll era is their terrible tackling. And so what you saw today was a very tight, not really so much a cover 2 defense, but similar to the cover 2 defense, where you basically say, okay, we're going to let you complete this 6 or 7 yard pass, but you're going to go down right there. You're not getting anything after the catch. And the Seahawks were especially good at that. I thought they did a really great job defensively. So the defense was as advertised, although they didn't get as much pressure on the quarterback as I would like. But the reality is Bo Nix is an elusive player. He's a good player. He had a rough day today, but it's his first start in the NFL. I'm sure the Seahawks threw a lot of masks and disguises at him and surprises, but he handled it, I thought, fairly well. He scored on a rushing touchdown. So you can't just tee off on Bo Nix and expect to knock him down. It's just not going to happen very often. So they really didn't get a lot of great pressure, but they kept everything in front of them. They played solid. They didn't give up any deep passes. The Broncos couldn't really try too much in the way of deep passes. And so, they kept them under control and in containment the entire game. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to translate to other games. I don't think it will. However, the reality is that the Seahawks were good enough today to get the win in spite of their problems. Now, one of the key things that came out of today which is really bad, is they lost George Fant. They lost their starting right tackle. They're already down Abe Lucas, their third-round pick from a couple of years ago, who was a really good player, and he's got a knee injury that's chronic, and it may end his career the way it's going. And then George Fant, I think he tore his ACL. I think it's pretty obvious he tore his ACL. And Fant has had 2 catastrophic ACL knee injuries now in his career, both at Lumen Field as a member of the Seahawks. So that's really sad, because now they're going to have to scramble. Stone Forsythe came in at right tackle. They've got a couple of other guys there, McClendon Curtis, who might be able to play right tackle, but they're stuck with that. And they also aren't really able to. They're going to have to do something on the offensive line. They're going to have to bring in a player from the outside. There's lots of guys out there with name recognition. I don't know if they were going to be really good players, but at this point in their careers, they got a lot of miles on them. But, the reality is that this is why you have cap space. This is why it's important to have cap space. It's why it's important not to get caught, not to spend too much money on players who really aren't that good. Now, speaking of players who weren't that good, look, this is a bad day for the Geno Bros. Okay, I've been listening to all this stuff on Seahawks Twitter and Twitter X. That people give me a hard time, and they, the Seahawks were ranked by Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk as the 22nd best team in the league in the power rankings. I think they're better than that, but you could tell if you went through the rankings, it was all based on the quarterbacks, and every quarterback ranked in front of Geno is better than Geno. And they were like, oh, Geno's great. He's going to be so awesome. It's going to be 2022 Geno again, all over again. And it really wasn't. He looked slow. He looked pressured. Here's the thing that I think is really interesting. Dave Barra, Seahawk Boy Dave, made the observation that if you watch early in the game, his play action, they were very slow. He was very slow to get into the plays. He was very slow to get to his spot. And I think it messed up the timing of the offense, and they really didn't block very well for him up front. So Seahawks' biggest issue is left guard. Laken Tomlinson got run over today. Anthony Bradford got run over at right guard. I don't know why Christian Haynes didn't play. Maybe he's injured. Maybe they're going to have to bring back the other Haynes from last year. They're going to have to bring at least, I think, one player in this week to really shore up that offensive line, because the New England Patriots looked really good today. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals, held them to just 10 points. And honestly, I think they're going to be a problem for the Seahawks, especially on the road at 10 a.m. We don't have any idea how Mike McDonald is going to handle 10 a.m. games. Pete Carroll did a really great job. They won most of their 10 a.m. road games by doing things like practicing at 10 o'clock in the morning, at least in the week leading up to it, if not the entire time, the entire season. So the Seahawks were always ready to play a game at 10 a.m. I think that was really smart by Pete. It's something I wanted Mike Holmgren to do for years and years and years, which is just get the team's body clocks used to playing at 10 a.m., especially if you have a bunch of East Coast road games. So this year they do. They have a few of them, and it's going to be a really interesting test next week. Other things, again, on the defense, they tackled guys when the ball was in front of them. They got interceptions. Reek Woolen made a great pick of a bad Bo Nix throw. They forced some fumbles, forced some turnovers. They got the job done on defense, and I think the linebacker play was especially outstanding. Okay, so let's flip over to the box score and take a look at things. Bo Nix was not really very effective today at all. The Seahawks held him down, but he's a rookie quarterback playing for a team that doesn't have a great line, doesn't have any running game, it doesn't have much in the way of receivers. He was 26 for 42 for only 138 yards, a 3.3 average. That means he's checking down a lot. That's what Sean Payton wants him to do. But it's really interesting, isn't it, Sean, that you blamed everything last year on Russell Wilson, not your offense, and you replaced him with Bo Nix. And guess what? Your offense is just as ass as it was last year. I wonder if it's maybe got something to do with you. Okay, so Geno Smith was a little better than that. 18 for 25 for 171 yards, a 6.8 average. So you can see that he was throwing the ball a little bit more downfield. One touchdown, one interception, took a couple of sacks. Neither one of them was really a bad sack. 87.2 quarterback rating. That's not half bad, but I think, again, he had the wide open touchdown pass to Zach Charbonnet, where he caught, two passes for 29 yards and a touchdown. I think that was, again, that was kind of a fluky play. You're not going to get a play like that every game where a guy just comes wide open and you can throw. I'm not going to say I could have thrown that ball, but I might have been able to throw that ball. And almost every NFL quarterback could have completed that pass. It was wide open. Geno also ran for 34 yards and a touchdown. That was a really good run by Geno. So it's interesting because his top speed was good enough, and he made a little juke move. He juked his safety and got the touchdown. To score the touchdown. It was good enough to run the ball about 34 yards for a TD, but his quickness is not good. And his quickness is what he needs to get into his drops and get into the place where he can throw the ball on time. And I thought he was late a few times today. I don't want to pick on Geno too much because he had an okay game, but look, if this team is going anywhere, he's got to do better than that. Kenneth Walker, 20 rushes, 103 yards, 5.2 average and a touchdown. But again, Ken Walker's big problem is always that he can't stay healthy, and he came off the field. He came off the field with a groin injury, or an abdominal injury. At the end of the game, he says, "Nah, it's nothing. I'll be okay." But players always say that, and then they're out for 3 weeks. So without Walker, I don't think Seattle wins this game today. Ryan Grubb made a good adjustment at halftime, and it was so great to see a coaching staff that actually made a halftime adjustment, and it actually worked. They lined it up. They said, okay, we're just going to line guys up. We're just going to smash mouth the ball right down here. We're going to give it to our outstanding running back, and he carried them offensively to this win today. So that was really great. The game balls go to the defense, and it goes to Kenneth Walker for really bailing us out. In terms of receptions, Tyler Lockett had 6 receptions for 77 yards, 12.8 average. That's pretty good. And he had a one-handed catch to seal the game. That was a tough throw by Geno. I got to give that. That was a difficult throw to make. He made it perfectly, and Tyler Lockett made a one-handed catch to get that last first down and seal the game up. That was a veteran play. That was a great play. Again, Jackson Smith-Njigba only had 2 targets. He had 2 catches, didn't do much of anything. Laviska Shenault didn't do anything. And Noah Fant, we're paying him like $6 or $8 million a year as a tight end, and he just doesn't do much out there. He just doesn't. He just doesn't do anything. So they also had a special teams fumble. D. Williams fumbled the ball. It was not a good day on special teams, and it was not a good day for the offense or the offensive line. One of the things, though, that I want to highlight, I think is important, is DK Metcalf only had 4 targets today. He was being guarded by Patrick Surtain, who's probably one of the better corners in the league, and who was getting away with a lot of pulling and holding on DK. DK kept his cool, but he only had 3 receptions for 29 yards. Not a big game for DK Metcalf. And if the Seahawks are going to win 8, 9, 10, 11 games this year, they got to get more out of DK Metcalf. It's just that simple. And I think this is going to be how teams are going to play the Seahawks this year. They're going to try to take DK away and make the other guys beat you. Well, today they did, but I think without some new blood on the offensive line, I really think they've got to give Christian Haynes a chance to start at right guard and plug somebody else in at left guard and hope they can get some better play. Now, defense was really interesting. Julian Love, outstanding game. 12 tackles, 10 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense. He was fantastic. Terrell Dodson, the linebacker, 10 tackles, 9 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense. He was terrific. He was all over the place. Jerome Baker had a good game. Rayshawn Jenkins, kind of invisible. What I thought was really kind of disturbing is Byron Murphy, the rookie, didn't really make a play. He had 2 tackles, 1 assist, and 1 solo tackle. Had no impact on the game. So we've been hearing all this stuff about how great the defense is going to be with Byron Murphy the second in it, and he didn't really do much of anything. I definitely thought that Leonard Williams, and Jaron Reed made more of a difference. And the Seahawks were much more stout against the run up front, and that allowed the linebackers to sneak in behind them. Dodson and Baker and make some plays. And I really just think the linebackers were outstanding today. You got to give them a lot of credit for that. Who had the interceptions? I forget. Do we have interceptions on there? We should have. Yeah, I forget who got the interception. I guess it was Reek Woolen got the interception. Bad throw. So overall, a really good effort by the defense. Jason Myers was 2 for 2 on his field goals. I think I don't understand. It was, what was it, 9-8? We scored a touchdown, and then McDonald goes for 2 in the second quarter. Like, no, you just take the extra point and go to 10-8 and get back in cycle. That was one of those crazy, the analytics say to go for it here and be aggressive. And I don't think that really was much. I don't think that was very smart. And hopefully we don't do that kind of nonsense in the near future. On the Denver side of the ball, nobody I thought was outstanding. There wasn't a single player on their team that I really liked, except I would like to have Bo Nix behind Geno Smith as our next quarterback coming along, because I do think a lot of people are criticizing him. I think unfairly. I think he did fine for his first start. So way to go on that one. Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix has a great future. I think he was worth a first-round pick. And we shall see how this all evolves as time goes by. Okay, so overall, good enough. 26-20. Good game. I just think the Geno Bros who think this guy is elite or think he's going to be spectacular or think he's going to be Super Bowl winning quarterback, you're just fooling yourselves. And I think today proved that, because here's the thing. I said, well, he was under pressure all the time. I get it. You know what, though? The great quarterbacks handle the pressure. They handle it, and they make plays anyway. Geno can't do that. Geno needs things to be right to make plays. The other thing about Geno that's really important is, look, if he's going to scramble, sorry, I'm going to fix my lighting here a bit. If he's going to scramble and run like that, that was a great play. He scored a touchdown. It helped win the game because we only won by 6 points. But at 34 years old, if Geno runs around like that, he's going to get hit. And he's been injured last year. He was injured in training camp on hits that were not that hard. Geno cannot afford to put himself out there like that and get hit. He can't. And if this team is going to have a chance at success, if they're going to have a chance at me cashing in my $100 sport bet ticket over there for the NFC West and win $750, Geno's going to have to stay healthy, because Sam Howell sure as shit isn't going to do it. So let's protect him better. Let's go find some interior offensive linemen. Let's bring people off the street if we have to. And let's make sure that we keep this guy protected, because he's a body thrower. To throw deep and to be effective, he has to get his whole body into it. Russell Wilson was pure arm, pure shoulder, pure muscle, whip, and the ball is there. He's a great passer. He didn't need his feet to be set and his feet to be perfect. Geno does. So we've got to really make sure that Geno doesn't get hurt. All right, next week, the New England Patriots. They looked really good today. I don't think they have much on offense. I think our defense will stifle them. However, their defense looked better than our offense. They shut down the Bengals. Bengals are a good team. I think Joe Burrow is better than Geno, and Jamar Chase is better than DK. And here's another thing, guys. I think, look, I know the team is set for this year, unless we're definitely out of the playoffs by the trading deadline and we're willing to fire sell some guys away. But I think you've got to consider in the off season, if not at the fire sale time, trading DK. DK may be our best player on his good days. He did not have a good day today. He got taken out of the game for the most part. And when Geno's getting pressured because of our poor offensive line, which is John Schneider's fault, by the way, for not investing in the interior offensive line to a greater degree. And you got to remember, too, the starting center. What's our starting center's name? The new guy. We didn't even have him on the roster until about 2 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago. So we hadn't even bothered to go get a center before this. So we have issues. We have problems. We don't know how Mike McDonald's going to handle a 10 a.m. start. And he's an East Coast guy, and he probably doesn't believe in it. Well, he will. He will, if he doesn't practice this team at 10 a.m. and get them ready to play body clock-wise at 10 a.m., he's going to find out when his team sleepwalks through the first half against the Patriots next week. I had the Patriots game on my win-loss thing as a W. I'm going to stick with that, but I'm a lot more concerned about that game than I was a week ago. I will say that after watching today. Not to say everything was bad. A win is a win, 26-20. We got one in the bag, and with the Rams right now playing the Lions, and I think the Lions are ahead at halftime. I'm going to go watch the rest of it. Technically, right now, the Seahawks are in first place because the Cardinals lost. So, all right, guys, that's it. Quick update, quick game review. I don't have a lot to add that other people probably haven't brought up already, but let's keep it real. Let's see what happens next week. Let's go out and get somebody like Jason Peters or somebody like that to fill in at right tackle. And I think we got to look for another guard too. I really do. And get those guys signed, get them in here and play them next week. Because that interior offensive line play, that was two guards, especially some of the worst offensive line play I've seen in a while. Anywhere. And that's got to get fixed, or this is not going to be a very successful season. Thanks for being here. I'll be back tomorrow. Real News Live with Mike and Jen. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share the podcast. And hey, you can send me a Rumble rant over on Rumble too if you want. I got to go let my kitty out and go watch the rest of the game. Have a great one. 1-0. Go Hawks.